Guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you don't mind my attire today. I am wearing my New England Patriots shirt because today, as I am filming this, it is the Super Bowl, which means you guys know who won and you're from the future and you should tell me who won so that I can, you know, put money down and become super rich and make, you know, so just if you could leave in the comments, you know, just whisper what the score is and I'll place money. I'll share it, I swear. No, nobody's talking to me. No one's telling me nothing. Okay, let's just move forward then. I try to be funny. So for today's video, I thought I would do a little bit of a story time because I found watching these type of videos really inspiring when I was setting out to write my first draft. And I wanted to kind of document my own journey and basically tell you guys the story of how I wrote the first draft of my book, how I finished a novel, because it's easily one of the things I'm most proud of in this world other than my selection in a life partner, because I have no idea how I ended up with someone like Zach. And yes, I did dye my hair red. I did this one by myself because I was spending so much money at the salon only to have my hair color wash out after a few days. Not worth it. So sit back, relax, and listen to the story of how Guardians of the Skulls came to be. So I've known since 2000 and let's see, when did I go through my breakup? I've known since 2013 that I wanted to be a writer. It was something that was a long time coming and I just wasn't realizing it myself. I had been dabbling in attempts to write novels since I was a kid, basically. A lot of starts, no finishes. And then I had an epiphany my junior year of undergrad where I was like, you know what, this is something that'd be perfect for me. It's what I really want to do. And ever since then, I have been attempting to do this, to finish a manuscript, and I just never had. I experienced a lot of dread because, you know, I wanted to be a writer so bad, but I didn't seem to want to write, which I think now I know actually that a lot of writers feel that way, and there's a lot of reasons for it. But yeah, I was worried what that meant, that I only wanted to be a writer but I didn't want to actually do the writing, which it sounds so silly now, but I'm sure you guys understand what I'm talking about, especially if you're watching this video. So after I graduated, and I graduated in biology, so not anything writing related whatsoever. At that point I still thought maybe I could just write on the side and hopefully, you know, write this bestseller first off the bat, become super rich and never have to work again. That's still secretly my plan, but I was a lot less thought out then. I stayed in Rochester, New York. I went to RIT and I worked for the American Red Cross there for a year before I decided to go to grad school. And during that year, the job I had wasn't the sexiest job in the world. I was an equipment database specialist, which is a really fancy way of saying I sat in front of a computer all day and analyzed Excel spreadsheets and entered in when equipment had last been maintenance. Yeah, it's super fun. And I filed a lot of papers. So as you can imagine, with that kind of job, my mind was bored out of its mind. But I had a lot of daydreaming time, and so I actually started to think about writing again, and I started to daydream novels, and I had this idea of, I just had this scene in my mind, which is right now the opening scene of my first draft. I don't know if it will remain the opening scene. I decided while I was at work, I don't recommend doing this. In my downtime, I had finished my reports for the day, and so I was like, well, you know what? I got like half an hour left of the day, and I just sat on my computer and wrote like 2 pages, which for me was a huge deal, a huge deal. I had had lots of novel ideas, and I am famous for writing down just these quick ideas in my planner that I never look at again, and I never actually sit down to write anything. And this was the first time I really did that. So I wrote 2 pages on February 6th, 2015, and I emailed it straight to my best friend Erin, and I was like, Erin, look, I wrote these 2 pages, this is so amazing. She's like, oh my god, Haley, it's so amazing, you finally did it. I'm like, I know, it's so crazy. Anyway, that's the start of how I wrote Guardians of the Skulls. And so in a perfect world, this fairy tale would end with I was motivated and I continued to write right after that, but no, I didn't touch it for 2 years. 2 years. Because I don't know. So after I graduated with my master's degree in 2016, that summer I spent working for a newspaper, and it got me into the habit of writing daily. And I realized how much I missed it. You know, I loved writing science stories, I loved writing newspaper stories, but I really missed writing fiction and having that creative side. I mean, that's what I really want to do. I want to write fiction. So after my internship with them ended, I was given the choice of remaining at the newspaper in Maine or moving to Boston here with Zach, and it was a huge life moment, as you can imagine. You just, you know, picking one career and what that would mean versus coming here with Zach and deciding on another career and what that would mean. And I obviously decided to move to Boston and take a chance, I thought, on writing because, you know, I had just graduated. I was so burnt out. I had been in school basically since I was 5. And so I just thought, you know what, I've got some money saved up. I am just gonna take this time and just try to be a writer. So I just decided to jump into it with both feet and just go ahead. No plan other than I'm just gonna write a book. I don't need a plan. It's fine. Yeah, spoiler, that's not how it worked out. Since I moved to Boston, I was also applying for jobs a little bit, not too heavily. I was like, that's 2017's problem. 2016, Haley's just gonna write a book. But I realized I had no experience in how to do that. I have taken classes in writing, I've taken classes in journalism, I know how to write a short story, I know how to write a news story, like no problem, I can crank those out. But how in the world do I write a 50,000 word plus novel? I didn't know. So I did what I always do and I YouTubed it. I think I literally just YouTubed like how to write a novel, and that was it. And that's how I found NaNoWriMo, and I'm so glad I did because she really changed my life, as dramatic as that sounds. Watching her, this person who really built her career as a writer and now is a writer full-time, it was so inspiring, and I was like, yes, that is what I want. That is what I want to be. So through YouTube is how I found NaNoWriMo. This video is gonna be long. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You're already a few minutes in and you probably are looking at the counter and you're like, oh my God, this girl blabbed for this long. I'm not gonna watch this. It'll be a fun story. Stick around. If my previous actions were any indicator of what I was gonna do next, I was like, oh, NaNoWriMo read a whole book in a month. Yeah, that's a good plan. I should do that. Haley, I've since learned, you know, to take things slower than the pace that I tried to take them because I failed dramatically, or drastically, not dramatically. It was dramatic too, but I meant drastically. Since I had never written before, it was a lot. It was a lot to try and take on. I think I did the first couple days I was afloat, but then after that I dwindled off and I think I only wrote like 16,000 words. Like I didn't do very much, but I had written 16,000 words and that is more than I had ever written ever for one project in my entire life. So it kind of gave that spark of, wait a second, I'm starting to get this. Like if I just break down each day, that's how this is gonna get done. Like it seems so daunting to think, oh my God, I wanna write a book, and to set out to do that without any sort of plan. But if you sit down and really break it down, for the first time in my life, got it. Like it stuck. It seems really obvious now. I'm sure there's plenty of you who understand that, but for me, it just was a huge revelation to see, you know what, 1,000 words a day, that's only like an hour and a half. And if I just do that every day, in X amount of days, I'll have written an entire book. And it was also around this time where I started going on more walks because I wanted to work on my fitness, and I also do my best brainstorming when I'm walking or jogging. And I happened to walk up the street near my house and I saw the Thomas Crane Public Library, and it was just, oh my God, it's the best, cutest little library I've ever seen. It looks like a mini castle, and you go inside, it's so beautiful. There's multiple floors, there's plenty of space to write. I mean, I guess it's just like any library, but I had never seen a library like that, and that's when I decided to just, I must have gone there. It was either every day or every other day that I just went there with my laptop and tried to do something. I didn't get much done. Mostly I was just doing research. I took a lot of notes. I was trying to figure out like where I wanted this story to go. I was also working on my chapter, but I was still feeling kind of stuck. Like I didn't know what to do next. I was writing, but I was writing without a purpose or without like an aim. And that's when I saw, or I remembered, NaNoWriMo's video on outlining, and I decided to to give it a try. And so around mid-January, I finished my outline, and I'll insert a picture of what it looks like here. So yeah, as you can see, it took up 2 whole window panes. It was easier for me to put on post-its, little stickies, and if you want to know what my process was with outlining, I'll link Jenna Moressi's video down below. It pretty much was the same. I had certain colors meant certain characters or certain subplots, and I would just write notes on it. I organized it by chapter, and within my book there's book 1 and book 2, and so like one window pane is book 1 and one window pane is book 2, and that was really fun. That process was amazing, like filling in the blanks, and it was a good way to try and make sure each chapter was somewhat equal, just because you know what I mean, like that way I didn't have like the bulk of my story was book 1 versus book 2. It was really great to visualize the entire thing. And for the most part, I've stuck to that outline. I have deviated a little, and I hope to deviate a lot more as I pump more life into my story, but now I'm getting ahead of myself. So right after I finished outlining was around the time I started getting really serious about applying for jobs. So my money ran out and I have been applying to jobs before that, but not aggressively. Like, I was applying to jobs that I saw that I really, really wanted, but not like the medium interest jobs, you know what I mean? But around mid-January, I was like, crap, like I gotta get serious about this. And so I started applying to like 5 jobs a day, which may not sound like a lot if you've never gone through intensive job applications, but it was a lot. And especially because most job application sites, you know, you have to do your resume, but then you also have to upload it and basically enter your resume into their job site. And it's exhausting, mostly mentally. And then just finding the jobs, like finding 5 jobs a day. Like at first you fly and you're like, okay, this sounds great, this sounds great, this sounds great, but after a few weeks you're like, I just don't even know anymore. That's a whole other video in itself, but basically my job applications took up most of my time and my writing kind of was put to the side again. And at this point I also was still pretty scared of my writing. I'd written a little bit, but then I'd write and I'd be like, oh, this sucks. Like I mean, I've been reading such great books the last few years, and I feel like my writing just did not compare, which was mistake number 1, comparing my writing, especially comparing my first draft to all of these other books' final draft. You can't do that. Like, that's not, it doesn't work like that. And through NaNoWriMo is when I learned about Camp NaNoWriMo, which takes place in April and July. I'm a huge fan of it. I swear I'm more in love with it than regular NaNoWriMo because you can set your own goals, set your own pace. And I was like, okay, this April is when I'm going to get serious about my writing again. Like, I am going to tackle my book officially. So day 1 of Camp NaNoWriMo in April actually went really well. I finished my first chapter, finally! Keep in mind, this is like 45 months after I had decided to tackle Guardians of the Skulls again, and I didn't finish my first chapter till April. So you want to talk about slow. But I was so excited to have made that progress. To me, that was huge. It felt like for the first time I was really doing it. And I keep a writing journal just because it's a way for me to warm up my writing before I start writing my fiction. I pretty much always do this. I'll open up my journal and I'll just start blabbing about really anything. Usually it's writing related, sometimes it's not writing related, but it just kind of gets my voice, my writing voice exercised. It's like stretching before you work out. Like I always do it, and it always just makes when I dive that into my fiction project feel much more organic. But I thought I would read to you one of my journal entries just because I felt it's a really good way to show you what I was going through then. So this entry is from April 2nd, 2017 at 1:59 p.m. I always write the time. I don't know why. I have no idea how many times I've tried to get on the path I can feel myself on now. I've been living in my apartment for 6 months now. 6 months. And I'm just starting to really fully understand how to fight for your dream and how to put in the work. All this time, I felt so guilty that I've been unsuccessful in working towards my dream with the speed I wanted. The guilt and the fear of what my inaction means threaten to swallow my dreams whole. The parallel with wanting to become healthier and wanting to write my novel has not gone unnoticed by me. I feel like I've attempted to start each at least 100 times, but for the first time, I'm okay with that. And I'm almost grateful for all those attempts. Every time I start now reminds me of how badly I want to push forward, not how many times I have failed. It's kind of like trying to start an old car. It hasn't been used in a while. You're not going to start it on the first try. You rev and you rev and you rev, and eventually it starts. But you're not going to try once, realize it didn't start, and then quit. No, you keep going because you know, or at least hope, it will eventually start. You keep doing it manically, a little angrily. That's what starting a new lifestyle is like. Except unlike an old car, you don't get another life. So keep revving until it starts going. And remember, it may quit down the road, and that's okay. Just rev it up again, because the places it will take you, they're worth it. So that's what I wrote April 2nd, right before, or right after I had finished chapter 1. That really was the catalyst of what set in the motion of me actually on the path of finishing. April 10th, so this was still during Camp NaNoWriMo. I was doing pretty good. I just read a quick little blurb from this. So April 10th, 2017, 10:40 a.m. Always wrote the time. It's day 10 of Camp NaNoWriMo, and I'm currently sitting at 9,000 words written since the first. So 14,976 total. 31 subscribers on YouTube. So 16 gained. Thanks, guys. And a real plan for success. It's crazy to think I could actually finish. It's weird though. By being in the thick of it all, it doesn't feel impressive anymore to finish. It just feels normal, like a plan. I guess that's how everyone feels when they embark on something like this. And I think I wanted to read that because that is probably the most true thing I have learned from writing my novel is it doesn't feel impressive. And you almost have to remind yourself how impressive it is once you're done, because you realize while you're going through it, like, I'm just doing a step at a time. Like it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything impressive when you're in the thick of it all. If anything, that should be inspiring to you though. That shouldn't be a deterrent, because it just shows how doable it really is. And it is doable. It's so doable. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Trust me. And during camp, there were so many late nights. You know, I basically set the goal to write 1,000 words a day. And if I hadn't met that goal, I tried to not go to sleep until I met it. I was probably getting some nights like 3 hours of sleep, because I would stay up until like 3 a.m. to get it done. Because of course I procrastinated, but I told myself, this is what you get, Haley. Until you write 1,000 words, you can't go to bed. And that made a huge difference. It was kind of mean to myself, but it set me into the habit of, you know, just focusing. And the sooner I focus and get these 1,000 words cranked out, the sooner I can go to sleep. And that was a huge motivator for me for a lot of April and July. I'm not gonna lie. So from that point on, I pretty much just wrote at least something every day, which has been my motto ever since. Like, just do something every day. It wasn't a lot. Like during camp, both in April and July, I did my most writing. But after that, you know, in the month between and August, September, I just tried to do something. And then finally, on October 6th, 12:36 a.m., and I know this because I did a journal entry right after, I finished. I wrote the last word, the last sentence, and I wrote the end, and I finished. And fun fact for you, I actually, when I filmed it, and I have like my last week of writing, and I'll link that below as well. I'm linking so many things, I hope I remember what I'm linking. When you see me finish, and I did finish, but I forgot to turn on the camera before I had finished, and I had started to write the end, and I was like, oh, no, I was supposed to film this. So I deleted the end part, and then I turned on the camera and I kind of reread the last few things I wrote, and I was like, okay, sounds good. And then I wrote the end again. So it was kind of a fake the end, but I hadn't finished writing end, I don't believe, so it still counts. Yeah, that was a really surreal moment. In the moment though, like once again, I didn't feel super impressed. I was more just like, I guess relieved. I was like, oh my god, I did it. But it definitely was not sinking in. And Zach had actually stayed up. He was on the couch. He'd fallen asleep, but he, like, after I finished, I looked behind me and he had set up champagne because he knew I was close, and I told him I was going to finish that night. He set up champagne, and so we had a glass of champagne, and I took this picture. And I shared that picture on one of my writing Facebook groups, and everyone was really supportive, and it was amazing. So yeah, October 6th, that was a really big day for me. Now it's February. It is February 4th currently as I am saying this, because I'm uploading it tomorrow, so then it'll be February 5th. So that's almost exactly 3 years after I originally started writing. So remember, I started on February 6th, 2015, and now it's February 4th, 2018, and that's just crazy to me that it's been that long. But you hear a lot of these stories, like how long it took to write. I think Kim Chance, her book just came out. I did a book review, and she took 10 years. 10 years from the start of writing Keeper to when she had her final draft. So I think that's kind of a common trend, especially with first-time writers. You're getting into the rhythm of it. And once you're there though, once you have figured out the secret, then you're good. Like, I'm not worried anymore about taking forever to write a book. Like, I know that I can do it, and I know how to do it, and I know I'm going to be good at it. You know, I keep saying the word secret, but honestly, the secret is, and this is frustrating to hear, I get it, but there really is no big secret, other than to see how easy it is for dreams to turn into goals. And the only difference between those two is having a plan. And if that plan is just writing something every day, then you're gonna finish a book because you're doing it. You're moving forward every single day. So I guess some tips I have: be kind to yourself. There were so many times during my journey that I took long breaks, and if I had sat there berating myself for that constantly, I never would have gotten anything done. You know, guilt only takes you so far. I'm not somebody who responds well to guilt. You know, I'd rather focus on, okay, what am I gonna do to fix this, move forward, than what am I gonna do to punish myself? Like, that's just not effective to me. And also, remember why you want this. I wanted it for a few reasons. I wanted to say I had written a book because that was important to me, and I wanted to share my story with others, and I want to be a writer. I want to be an author, and in order to do that, I have to do the writing part. So it is work, and it is hard, and it doesn't mean anything if you are struggling to do that element of it. So if you're feeling that sense of dread also, just remember why you want this. If it's because you just want to be famous, there are a lot of ways to do that. So I mean, I would love to be a famous author. I'm not gonna lie, I love to be successful at what I do, but I know there's 1,001 ways that you can be famous, and so my choice of writing wasn't because of that. It's just, I don't know, I could have done other things. Does that make sense? Also, my biggest tip for those who are afraid of starting, because this is something I was so afraid to write badly, because, I don't know, I wanted to write something good first. And I think a lot of people feel that way, but you can't become a great writer until you start writing. And it's not a waste of time or a waste of energy or a waste of creativity to write poorly, because the longer you write poorly, eventually it's going to turn into good. And yeah, you might have to go back and fix it. You're going to have to do that. Just accept that. But you're not going to get better until you just start. So even if it's just like, I like you, she said. Thanks, he said. You know, something so simple like that, you're still just moving forward. And one thing I repeated to myself over and over with my first draft is that I'm just building the skeleton. It's okay for it to suck. It's okay for it to feel thin. Just repeat that to yourself. It's okay. And this one is so cliche, but so true, is to never ever let fear stop you from doing something that you love or something that you want. The only thing really that you should be afraid of is standing still. So if you just make the decision to move forward, even just a tiny bit, boom, you don't have nothing to fear. So, you know, just keep revving that engine until it catches, and trust yourself that it will, because it did for me. And I revved it many, many times, but now I have this. I did it. I wrote a book. I know it's just the beginning, but after writing it, and, you know, even just halfway through writing it, I'm not afraid anymore. You know, I know I'm gonna finish. I know I'm gonna write my final draft. I know I'm gonna publish it. You know, the secret to success, I think, is doing what you can do to move forward and letting go of how that success will come to be. You know, I know that this is gonna be published one way or another. If I query 100, 200 agents, nobody picks it up, fine. I'm just gonna self-publish. And now that I've learned more about self-publishing, I'm not even afraid of that anymore. Like, part of me is actually seriously considering it anyway, but I think I still ideally would like traditionally publishing first, but now that's a whole other video. So many other videos. Good thing I have a channel. All right, that's gonna be it for today. I'm sorry that this was so long. Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm glad this was long. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you sat down with a cup of coffee, or you played this video while you were cleaning around your apartment like I did 1 year ago when I had set out to first write my first draft. You know, I just listened to videos like this. I let them inspire me. I did a lot of cleaning, because that's what I do when I procrastinate, and my apartment looked great. Now it looks super messy, I admit, but I have this. So you can't have it all. And all right, I will see you guys on Saturday. Go Pats! Did they win? I'm gonna say congratulations to the Patriots for the 52nd Super Bowl win champion. I don't know the terminology. and I might be wrong. But that will be the only wrong thing I said in this video. What up? Okay, I'm a little full of myself. I'm gonna go, bye! So, that thing I said at the end of my video, I might have jinxed us.
All I'm gonna say is Haley totally jinxed us. She rooted for the other team.
I didn't. I just said it would be nice if someone who's never won the Super Bowl won.
Fight right now at the Shocky.
Zach's a little upset, but he'll get through it. After all, we have, what season's next? We don't watch anything.
The hockey.
Well, the Olympics are coming up. Hockey. Okay, bye.